Welcome to the Post Racing Podcast with Ron Robinson and Sean Travass. Post Racing, the site for winners.
Good afternoon, Sean. How the hell are you?
I am fine, Ron. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to anyone listening in to our occasional podcast. Big wide, you never know. I'm listening. The big wide world of horse racing, and then a few tips for the weekend as well. And Ron's OMS as always, where he goes off and brags about how he's giving you all these winners each week. What can I say? Because he pays the bills. Where are we going to start this week?
Do you know what I'm going to be doing in the OMS today?
No, I don't.
I'm going to tell you what that didn't win. What made you a profit? How's about that?
Well, something different. I think we'll take it.
Something different, yeah.
Talking of something different, where are we going to start this week?
The all-new Professional Racing Association. When did that actually come into being?
Oh, goody. Well, when it came in, I don't know. When I read about it, it was within the last couple of weeks. How long it's going on behind the scenes is another matter. Well, my first thought is just what we needed. Another racing organisation to put its fingers into.
I thought that, yeah.
But what do you make of it? It's run by, owned by, started up by, headed by, or whatever. Peter Saville, ex-owner, and the owner of Plumpton. That's why I got the word owner from. Yeah. What do you make of it so far?
Well, wasn't he also the architect of Premier Racing?
He might well have been. Yes. I think
something to do with it. I'm sure of that. Well, the idea of this organisation is that they're basically putting the arms up the backs of all the racecourses to be more transparent with their income. So that they can then see whether, in their opinion, enough money is being put into prize money. My reading of all of this, I don't know. It's a bit iffy. They've got about 150 trainers on board at the moment, I believe. Yeah. And what they've said is that from 2025, any racecourse that fails to deliver on what they're calling their kite mark figure, they will be boycotted. These trainers won't run their horses at these meetings. Now, I carried on reading this, and I've read it a few times. They've not yet spoken to the Jockey Club, Arena Racing, Ascot or Goodwood. Now, can you imagine any trainer boycotting Ascot or Goodwood if they tell the PRA to get stuffed?
Yeah, but you could turn that coin the other way around, which is the way I read it, and that is that Ascot, Goodwood, Jockey Club and ARC haven't spoken to them. Now, I understand they've reached out to everybody and asking basically for financial figures and proof that they're putting at least a third of their race day income, I think is the phrase, back into play. So that obviously includes media rights, which has always been the elephant in the room on all these negotiations. And I don't believe ARC and the Jockey Club have even come back to them yet. Now, they've said that if you don't come back, then you're instantly on the boycott list, effectively. Yeah. Now, the problem with that is my understanding is that this has been tried before when there was low prize money and the trainers were going, we're all going to boycott X meeting because there's low prize money. And then didn't ARC and Co come back and say, we'll see you in court?
That's it. Yeah.
And the trainers quickly back down, is my understanding. Unless he's found a legal loophole that means I think they should be able to do it. It's my horse. If I choose not to run it, that's up to me. Not necessarily the trainer, but the trainer talks to me as an owner and I go, go on then, I'll side with you. That's my choice as an owner, surely. I don't see ARC. I'm no lawyer. I don't see what leg, ARC have to stand on telling me that I have to run my horse at a particular track. If I don't want to, I'm not going to run it. Simple as that. Yeah,
put it in the owner's course. That is correct. Yeah.
I think it's a bluff from ARC, but then they're a very powerful organisation. Don't ever think they're not. They think they've got a legal leg to stand on. I don't see what they can do if I just say to my trainer, well, for instance, me, I live in deepest, darkest Sussex, for an argument. So I'm tempted if I had a horse to say to my trainer, don't ever enter it north of Watford, because I can't go and see it run. It's too far for me, and I'd like to. Is there something wrong with that? I don't think there is. So how can they say, oh no, you can't boycott? I'm going to say throw Wolverhampton into the mix just for a name. Oh, you can't say you're not running your horse at Wolverhampton. Well, I can because I don't want to travel as far as Wolverhampton.
I'll travel there, yeah.
Ascot, Goodwood and Lingfield, thank you very much. That'll do for me. And they're not naming ARC as don't run at ARC courses. They're naming the courses. So in my case, with that fictitious example, I could still run at Lingfield if I chose to, but not at Wolverhampton. So I don't see what legs they've got to stand on to stop the trainers, as long as it's via the owners, of course, saying, no, we're not going to those courses. However, I'm wary that shouldn't the Horsemen's Group be doing this? And the Thoroughbred Group, or whatever they're called, Thoroughbred Group, get that right? Sorry.
I'm wondering why we needed another organisation to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you not think racing's fragmented enough with everybody trying to...
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Actually, I've got a video of there is a reason for saying this. I've got a video of 3 of my dogs in the lounge, all pulling on one toy in different directions. I think perhaps I ought to share that on Twitter. Is this horse racing? Is this horse racing's powers that be ? With everyone pulling in different directions, because that's sometimes how it feels. And we've argued before, I certainly have, that racing needs one central power that decides all these things. Whether we can get there or not, or whether that's within the realms of the law, it can't be done. But adding another group into the mixture, pulling in potentially, maybe the Thoroughbred Group, for want of an argument, decide 30% of media of race day income is enough, but then this group say 33%. So now we've got 2 groups going for the same thing, but effectively pulling in slightly different directions. It's just
bonkers, isn't it? I think it's great something's being done, but from my seat, and it does feel like it's the smaller tracks that are going to get bullied into doing this. I know Fakenham have already provided all their details that they were asked for, but they also asked for a non-disclosure agreement as well. So where's the transparency in that?
I think, I know what you're saying. I understand why they're going on disclosure agreement. Why would they want everyone to know? Why would they want other tracks to know where they make their money and where they don't? I suppose would be the argument to that. But there's also that hidden agenda of, well, why aren't they willing to tell us what they get for media rights? Has always been the mark, and no one's willing to divulge that. And racing's gone into secret squirrel mode with why won't they tell us what's wrong? What are they hiding? It may be they're not hiding anything. And it may simply be that as a business, they're not happy to disclose that to other people, because maybe Fakenham are getting 3,100 per race, whereas, I don't know, Fontwell, for an argument, are only getting £3,000 a race, or whatever. I'm making that up because I haven't got a clue any more than anyone else has. But it may simply be they don't want everyone to know their profit and loss figures, where they're making the money, where they're losing money, because it helps their business rivals potentially. So you can see why, but you would think that the BHA or somebody could put a board of 3 people together who are sworn to secrecy, if you like, and then they can overlook it all and come back and go, yeah, all the courses are actually paying out more than we thought they were, to be honest. Or equally likely, who knew the racecourses were taking this much money out of the sport? Who knows? But you could get independents to look at it. I don't need to know what the figures are. You don't need to know what the figures are. You just need to know that what they're putting back into prize money is a fair percentage. So I'm not bothered that it's not in the public domain what those figures are. I am bothered that it's not being shared within the racing world, albeit in secrecy. And where this new grandly titled one of Peter Savills comes from, what remit it has, who it reports to, if anybody, is the question mark as to why they might not want to share their details. Whereas if it's an official body done through the BHA for want of an argument, or through the Thoroughbred Group, then perhaps they'd be willing to share it more willingly. I don't know. Difficult, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I mean, I liken it. I mean, it's just suppose Ascot and say, no, we're not giving you the figures. Get lost. What we'll do is we'll say to you, we'll do what Mohammed Al Fayed used to do when he was the owner of Harrods. And when HMRC used to come calling for their cut every year, he would say, here's 10 million, take it or leave it. They usually took it because the alternative would have been to have gone through every single transaction that Harrods had conducted that previous year. And it would have taken them about 10 years, and maybe they'd have got 12 million out of it. So they just they just said, yeah, okay, we'll take the 10 million. Thanks very much.
I suppose so. I can't say I like that, because that means someone's rich is getting away with the tax regime, whereas I have to spend hours going through tiny little receipts for my self-employed income before I pay what I have to pay, whereas he could afford to pay 10 staff to do it quite comfortably. But it is what it is, I suppose.
It is. I mean, in every aspect of social security or inland revenue, it's always the little man they go after first.
No, because they're easy to get the money out of, I suppose.
They're easier to get hold of. Yeah, it's easy. It's easier to catch a window cleaner who's working on the side and claiming double than it is to go after somebody that's got a huge business. And, you know, it's just the way it's always worked. It always will work that way, I'm afraid.
I think the saddest thing about all of this is that racing needs to start pulling together. You know, we've got, in my opinion, we've got the government via the Gambling Commission not out to get us, but they're certainly not going to do us any good. It's certainly going to harm us. We've now got, we discussed briefly, and we'll probably discuss it another day, the potential plan for an outdoor smoking ban that's going to hit racing hard. There's all sorts of other potentials that may or may not come up in the future. We need to be pulling together, not against each other. And I don't understand how racecourses think they can continue if there's no horses to race. And I don't understand how owners and trainers think they can continue if there's no racecourses to race them at. So the bottom line is they have to work together, and yet they're not. They just seem to be working against each other all the time, and I can't understand it. It's so simple that you need to work. You know, everyone's going to have to make a compromise. Simple as that. You've got to meet someone.
In any business on the planet, they all talk about teamwork.
Yeah.
Everybody. The only way anything constructive ever gets done is if everybody's pulling on the same end of the rope.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, a bit like the racing league thing, teamwork. Don't get wrong start. Right, we need to pull together. Now, if at the end of the day Peter Saville's group gets something out of it for the good of racing, and even if they privately identify, it's a bit. I watch these crime things on TV. I did go off at a tangent. My apologies. And it's quite often it's not a case of when you confess; it's what you're not willing to say that points the old bill in the right direction. And that's the same, potentially the same with this. He's collecting information from as many racecourses as are willing to give it to him. Now, those who are kind of going, yeah, have a look at my books. Well, the suggestion would be they've clearly got nothing to hide. And all the courses that are going, no, I'm not sharing that data with you, that implies us mere mortals and the general public. Why are you not willing to share the data? What have you got? So it does at least potentially point racing in the right direction, that somebody's potentially making more money than they should be. Notice how often I use the word potentially. That's because I don't want to get into any trouble. But yeah, you don't know. And it's why are they not willing to share it? Not share it with the public. That's fully understandable. But share it amongst themselves so that someone in power looks at it and goes, well, these 10 courses are only putting back 22%, and that's not enough. These are putting back 40%. Perhaps that's too much. They could lower that a little bit. And the rest of them are somewhere in the middle. But while they're not giving the figures, everyone can point fingers in all sorts of directions. And no one really knows what they're doing, including us, unfortunately, because we're second guessing, aren't we? At the end of the day, we're second guessing, and we don't know the facts. I've been told for years it's racecourses taking the money out. Various trainers have told me that, but I have no evidence to back that up. And I think the truth of it is the trainers who told me it have got no evidence to back that up either. It's just a sort
I think what they're working on is the fact that Lingfield is charging £57 for a bottle of Prosecco.
Yeah, they are, but then I don't know how much the bar has to. It's so complex because the bar selling it, if they're having to pay £30 a bottle to the racecourse, then they've got to sell it at 57 to make any kind of profit. And so, it's not just a direct figure that you can just go, 57 for Prosecco. How much was the bar charged? How much of the staff paid? How much they pay for the annual right to be on the course selling the stuff in the first place? And how do they divide that? I'm going to make a figure up, £10,000 a year. How do they divide that £10,000 a year into each bottle of Prosecco when they've got no idea how many bottles they're going to sell? It's far more complicated than it looks at first glance. You and I just go £57 for a bottle of Prosecco, thieves, basically. And that's how you and I look at it. But there's more to it.
It is, yeah.
Who's thieving? The person at the bar or the racecourse that's charging the bar to be there, or what? Or is that because they're making that much profit? That's why they can let you in for only £25. It would have to be £35 if they weren't making that kind of profit on the Prosecco. It's more complicated than it appears, but it could all be solved in a trice if they shared the figures. Simple as that.
It would be.
Never mind. Talking of figures, what do we have next on the list?
Poor old Geoff Banks, the bookmaker, and the dishonest punter. Have we got any sympathy for him? Well, basically what happened was that there's a guy in the queue, and this is how I've read it, and he's behind a guy in the queue betting with Geoff Banks on the rails at York. The guy in front of this fella, as I said, A grand to win Tropical Storm at 5-2, please. And the bet's been struck. Fella behind him goes up. £100 Tropical Storm, 5-2, please. Anyway, the horse goes and wins. The punter who's got the £100 on went up to the bookmaker, Geoff Banks, whoever was on his board at the time, and said, grand 5-2. And he paid him out on his £100, 3.5 grand.
Nice.
And the fella's just put it in his pocket and walked away. And then obviously the guy who's got the grand on has gone up later and done the same thing. Now he's had to be paid his 3.5 grand because he's got the ticket. Why didn't the guy check his ticket? How long would that? I've never been on a race course where the fella doesn't read what's on my ticket to the guy who's got the board that pays out what's on the board. So how did that mistake happen? And have you got any sympathy with Geoff Banks?
It's a tough one. I'm going to be really outrageous here and say, yeah, I have, actually. Because at the end of the day, the law, I think he was out of order by calling the police because it's a civil matter as far as I know.
What are the police going to do? Yeah.
But if they put £5,000 in your bank that shouldn't be there and you spend it, then the bank's fully entitled to ask for it back. And you have to pay it back. That's the end of it. It's an error and one that you should have been aware of. I think is the way they look at it. The guy who picked up 3,500, would I have done the same thing? That's a tough one. I'll plead the fifth on that one because I'm not really sure. It's a lot of money to be offered and no, you have it back. I'm the one who had the smaller bet. It's an unlikely thing to do. But is Geoff in the right? He is really. He handed out money that the guy accepted money he shouldn't have had. I can see where Geoff's coming from. It's only going to be the long-term punters who pay because he's going to take an extra percentage off the next 500 bets or whatever.
He'll make that back. Yeah.
Until he gets his money back. He's right in what he says in that the old-fashioned idea of used to be that if you're a proper professional punter, which has never been me, I might add, that you would go to the rails with the likes of Geoff Banks and just nod at him and say a grand on that one. You never changed cash. Cash never changed hands. Not like that. When it lost, you went and gave him the grand. If it won, he paid you your profit. That was a sort of gentleman's code for what. I think that's what's upsetting the most is that code has been broken. And that someone's basically stolen from. And in a sort of roundabout way, they have, because they knew they weren't entitled to that money. You know, when you say 100 at 5-2, or you're at 5-2, and how much to pay out is on your slip, isn't it? So he knows what he took. Should he have done it? Would I have done it? Like I say, no comment on that one. It's too much money to be on it to honestly say, no, I wouldn't have walked away. It would have been 10. I have been in a restaurant many, many years ago where they didn't charge me for pudding. I didn't remind them. I just paid
you swine.
I know. I don't think they called the police, but you'll never find out. That's a good 30 years. I'm just being honest. So I don't know. 6 and 1 after the other. I think he's made an idiot of himself going really public about it. What do you think the bloke was going to do? Come back and give him the money? I don't think so.
I'd have just kept shut up, I would.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you think now that anyone was going to £100 bet or even £50. You watch and wait for the guy in front to have a 500 or 5,000 and just follow up with a very similar number and hope you get lucky. Yeah. But I think I feel a little bit for him because at the end of the day, it's his money. You don't have to bet with him any more than any of us. I moan about the profits that the bookmakers make because I think they make too much while racing is struggling. If racing wasn't struggling, trainers were laughing, owners were laughing because the prize money was good, etc., then I really wouldn't care how much money they make, to be honest. It's only because racing is struggling while the bookmakers are announcing massive hundreds of millions of pounds profit is the only reason I'm anti them, because they're taking out more than their fair share. But in this particular case, you had a contract, you had an agreement, and you've basically broken it by taking more money. Should they have paid it out? No, but hands up anyone listening to this who's never made a mistake at work. Yeah, I didn't think so. We all make mistakes at work, and that's exactly what the guy did. And I don't suppose he'll ever forgive himself. Question mark is, will Geoff ever forgive him? But it's a tough one. But gave me a laugh, if nothing else. Still.
Yeah.
On to the next bit of positive news.
Yeah. Well, I thought, okay, I know that they're doing something similar to what I've done in the past and what I want to do in the future. But I just love a good news story. And this Rob Burrows story is going to go on and on and on. I think it's brilliant that the likes of Paul Hannigan and Simon Mapletoft and other people involved in racing have got together and got this thing sorted called the Good Racing Company.
Yeah, good
and
Yep.
what it is, they bought some nice cheap horses, and it was basically just done for a bit of fun, get people going racing, supporting charities, which is exactly what I want to do, and I've done in the past. And they've got this horse called Alfa Kellenic, and he can't stop winning. They only paid 20,000 quid for it. They put it with a small trainer, Craig Lidster, and the darn thing keeps winning, and it won at York last week. And it's won 90,000 quid. It's already paid for itself and all its keep. And I should imagine the charities are laughing over this. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I've actually put in my notes, just like Post Racing, see podcast, because it's on my notes.
It is. Yeah.
Motor neurone disease, racing to school, racing welfare, Rob Burrows Racing Club, and the Graham Lee Racing Club are all supported by, according to the website. That's where I went to looking for it, funnily enough. And good for them. She's entered, I think it's she, isn't it? Entered in the Air Gold Cup, apparently, late September.
Is she? Yeah, the Gold Cup, yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah, the only entry at the moment. Not saying they want something in between. That's an early entry for that. So they may well enter in between or not go there. Who knows? But good luck to her. She's been put up another £5 for that. Whether she can keep that run going, who knows? But she's done a marvellous job for charity. Marvellous job for Craig Lister as a small trainer as well, to be honest with you.
That's as big a part of it for me as anything else. This guy's only just basically started, hasn't he? And he's got this horse, and it's given him the limelight, and good luck to the bloke. I think it's brilliant.
If I had one gripe, because I had quite a good look at it, as you can imagine, off southerner that I am, all their stuff is at the moment based in Yorkshire, which is I don't have anything against Yorkshire before I get any rude or abusive emails. But from my point of view, it's a long way to go. Come to the stable visit. It's a 6-hour drive. Come see the horse. It's a 5-hour drive. Bit like we were saying about.
You know, when we've been involved in horses with Harry Fry and people like that.
Yeah.
He's as far south as you can get, but we've had loads of members right up in the Highlands of Scotland. They never get down to see the horse. They never see the horse racing, but they're just chuffed to be part of it. You know, really pleased to be part of it. Even when we had Rosie's Lady with David O'Mara, we'd go racing in Wolverhampton. Those people never got down to Wolverhampton to watch the 6:30 there when she'd go and bolt in by 3 lengths, but they were just chuffed to be part of it, you know.
Yes, I can see that, and I shouldn't be such a tightwad, I suppose. But she raced at Chelmsford for her debut when she was owned by somebody else, and since then she's raced Southwell, Newcastle, Thirsk, York, Ayr, and then York again. Now, that's not an issue, and if you live anywhere up north or Midlands even, I would recommend joining because it looks worthwhile to me. So fantastic, good luck. But I'm just hoping that someone from there is listening, or someone who's a member or knows them is listening. So go on, when you get the next one, stick it somewhere down south. There's nothing against Craig Lister or anything like that. You've got a whole new audience down here as well, many of which will be equally delighted to go racing as our northern compatriots are. So bring one down south for me, and then we'll all join up as well.
I think you'll find that is what happens, you know, because I've got a feeling this has got bigger than they thought it was going to ever be. This was something just to be done for the Rob Burrows Foundation and the Motor Neurone Disease Organisation and that type of thing. And they've gone and got themselves a little superstar for 20 grand. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
It's brilliant news. It's done racing extra publicity outside of the racing sphere, if you like, because of the aspect of it. It's got people involved, and it's we were discussing before we came on here, we sound so negative, and that's the way racing is going at the moment. It's very apathetic, very very negative, because all the things going on, the affordability checks as mentioned earlier, and all the other stuff going on. It's become very negative, but the racing gang, the racing crowd, whatever you want to call them, do you know what, they're a pretty decent bunch overall.
I'll tell you what, I've met some amazing people going racing, absolutely amazing people,
and it's I'm guilty of forgetting that in recent years, I suppose. So something like this does remind, what have I written down here? Contrary to all the doom and gloom in our sport, there are plenty of good guys in the racing game, and you can have a bit of fun with basically the hair on a horse's bum as your share. But for a relatively small sum of money and supporting charity at the same time, why wouldn't you do it? Sign up, and then we'll get ours going soon, and you can join ours as well.
Yeah, that's right. That is the plan now. I've got to get back to doing what we were doing. We've been stymied a couple of times, but the fire still burns. The fire still burns.
Yep, I agree. But I blame you for COVID, just adding that into the mix. Really.
Yeah.
Well, that brought everything to a full stop, didn't it, for everybody? Isn't it? Back to the drawing board, building blocks, and start again. So, lastly, for I've written down here. Lastly, when is a chaser not a chaser? Over to you.
Well, this Arctic fly thing at Kellenic last week.
Yeah.
How did that horse keep that race? Because it never jumped that fence. I watched it several times, and it was the second fence of the race.
Yep.
And they've approached the fence. Now, they've got the rail either side of the fence, which basically, as far as I'm concerned, is basically just to give the jockeys the eye line to the fence. That is where you go to jump the fence, in between those two white fences, right? Okay, the rails. Now, next to the fence, they've got like this brush. It looks like part of the fence.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to jump inside that over the fence. Now, Arctic Fly has gone towards the fence, and it looks like he's going to try and run out. And what he's actually done is he's jumped in between the white rail and the brush and got nowhere near the fence.
Yeah.
But he's carried on in the race, and he's gone on to win the race.
Mm-hmm.
How was that allowed to keep the race? It didn't jump the fence.
It did within the rules. Funnily enough, I don't disagree with what you're suggesting, but apparently, having read up on it, and again, I'm repeating other people's who've no expertise for me here, they used to have flags on the fence on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and the rules were you had to jump between those flags. And if those flags had been there, then she would have been disqualified because she failed to jump between the flags. But they did away with those, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it may be. So now, did she or didn't she jump the fence? Well, she did jump in a manner of speaking, not over the actual brush, if you like, but
she jumped alongside the fence.
Yeah. Did she? The first thing I have to ask is, did she gain anything from it? Do you honestly think?
Probably no. In fact, it probably detracted. To be honest,
it almost stopped her, really.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can say she gained from doing it. And within their rules, she didn't fail to jump the fence because she did jump, albeit almost through it, but between the wings. She didn't jump outside the wing or just run straight through without jumping. She attempted to jump, albeit poorly steered perhaps, and almost knocked the wing to one side as she tried to go through it. But within the rules, she didn't fail to jump the fence, apparently. Now, there is talk that they might look at changing the rules. Perhaps they'll
that's what I've read. Yeah, they're going to change the rule, aren't they? Yeah.
Some kind of marking. The trainer, the runner-up, isn't going to, was Michael Hurrigan, I believe. It isn't going to appeal. I suspect he's been told that really within the rules she didn't do anything wrong. So if he pays 500, 200 or whatever it is to lodge an appeal, he's not going to win. So why bother wasting your time and wasting your money? You imagine. You think he gets his deposit back because he's got a good argument, but within the letter of the rules, didn't do anything wrong. So very, very strange. People who back the runner-up moaning like Billy O on Twitter about it. Two realities spring to mind. Firstly, you've watched it many times and I've watched it many times. Did you hear did the commentators even notice it?
No, they never breathed a word about it. No,
not even noticed by professional commentators. It's one thing, and the fact that it's not outside the rules says another thing. And she certainly didn't. As I said, if anything, she lost ground, not gained it.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's a storm in a teacup again. Really, it's an unusual one. It's interesting. It gave us something to talk about, but we might as well move swiftly on to it. Nothing to see here, really, at the moment. Under those rules, nothing to see here. It's one of those things I'm sure Irish Racing will look at, will amend the rules accordingly. But actually, I don't think they even need to. It's the first time it's ever happened.
I was just going to say, and it's probably going to be the last time it ever happens as well.
Well, that's the thing. There's no point in overreacting. Again, as an aside, we fill in results cards when I play pool on a Wednesday night, and the home team has to fill results card in, and so does the away team. And the reason that is that I've been in the pool league for over 40 years, and once someone doctored a card, once in all that time. And because of that, both teams have to fill out a card now, whereas before you used to fill out one and hand it in. So again, sledgehammer to crack a nut. Do they really need to change the rules because one race has gone slightly awry, and how many races a year for how many years? I don't not even convinced it's worth bothering with. But on the other hand, it won't take to put a flag on either
It
side.
gave us something to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's of that importance, to be honest with you. Only people with their pocket who even noticed it. Still,
I'm sorry, I mentioned it now.
Exactly. I bet you wish you hadn't. On to the racing now. I'd like to apologise in advance and tell you that Ron picked these races. So anything wrong with it? Anything wrong with these is Ron with these, because it's all down. So we're going to start with the 2:05 p.m. at Beverley. He says, clicking his mouse in case Ron says anything. I need to update him on anything along those. Off you go, sir.
Right, well, Clive Cox, he's won the last 3 runs of this race, but he's got Nout in there tomorrow. Nope. He also won it last year with the first 3-year-old to win it in the last 10 years, which basically shows how difficult it can be for the younger sprinters when they're actually chucked in against the more battle-hardened older types. Only 7 go to post tomorrow, and that's basically indicative of the situation that needs addressing in this country, and that is that all the good young horses are being sold to race abroad. I mentioned to you in a text last week, I wonder how many of the Melrose field at York, all 3-year-olds, will be sold to race abroad next year. I'm keeping track of this. I don't know where we can find out the details of how many horses are sold to race abroad and what rating they've got when they go, but I wouldn't have be interested. Anyway, yeah, I hope it's one of the PRA initiatives we discussed earlier on. Like I say, we had 7. We've got 7 going this year. Prior to that, we had 13 runners, 11 runners, 10 runners, and we've had 1 season with 9 runners. It's slowly going down in field size. I want to get back to 13 runners, please. Thank you very much. 7 of the last 10 winners were sitting front 3 on the tissue. And I'm very happy to go down that road tomorrow. So if I'm right, one of Clarendon House, Comanche Falls, or Democracy Dilemma wins it. Trading 3rd and 4th favourite right now, we have a pair of 3-year-olds. And this market is really tight. The favourite is 4-1. And the rank outside is only 7-1.
Yep.
And it's absolutely impossible to rule anything out totally. It's quite possible tomorrow morning we might see a 3-year-old Blue Storm in the front 3 on the tissue, because one of these 3 will drift, and that one I guarantee they'll bet that horse. Democracy Dilemma's a 4-year-old, and in the last 10 years, 19 of that age group have tried to win this race, and only 5 have even managed to place. Winning it as a 3-year-old was diamond by Clive Cox. He must have known exactly what he had last year. So I've got to rule the 4-year-old out. I've ruled the 3-year-olds out, and that leaves me now with Clarendon House and Comanche Falls. To split them. And to split them, what I'm going to do is look how well, or otherwise, a trainer's done both in this race and in similar races being run at the track. And that's been really good over the last few weeks. We've had a couple of nice winners doing this. And on that score, it's got to be Comanche Falls for me. Michael Dodds, he sent 5 for this. He won it in 2020 with Dakota Gold, and he's placed with one other. Robert Cowell, by contrast, who trains the other one, Clarendon House, has sent 3 for the Bullets in the past, and he's only placed with the 1. He's £1 wrong with the top weight, who carries 9 stone 7 pound, which is another huge negative, because nothing in the last 10 years has carried more than 9 stone 4 to victory, which is the weight Comanche Falls has on his back tomorrow. I'm all over Comanche Falls like a bad rash.
You and your favourites. Yeah. The interesting thing for me is looking at the odds and the movement that you'll see on the Racing Post website underneath the current prices. And they clearly don't go very far. When I started writing this yesterday, Jack Shannon's Staincliffe was 10-1.
Yeah.
And that was from the final field, I might add. So it's not that the load hadn't run or something like that. Now Staincliffe is 6-1. So that suggests to me some money has come, or the bookmakers have adjusted their prices, one or the other. Who knows which? But it's going to be Staincliffe for me. Right. Each way for the first 2 at 6-1. Yeah, I think she's got a great chance. She's lightly raced, pretty unexposed for a 3-year-old. Daughter of Advertise, second at Sandown on debut, before winning at Newcastle, after which she was put away for the winter, returned at Windsor over 5 furlongs and cruised home by 8.5 lengths, I believe it was, or at least 8 lengths anyway. You don't see that very often, do you, in sprints? Let's be realistic. Nope. An 8-length win. They appear to have decided to avoid handicaps for now, at the very least. Depends how she does on Saturday, obviously. She's coming out of the 2 stall, lest we forget, lower the draw the better at Beverley, even in a small field.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I think it's an advantage to be drawn low. She's coming out of the 2 stall. She's entitled to improve for her first run of the season. She's only had 3 starts overall, hacked up by 8 lengths last time out. What's not to like? So also she gets a 3-year-old allowance, and then she gets a fillies allowance on top of that. She is the lowest rated horse in the field. I accept that, and she's got something to do. There's no problem there. But she's £4 below Blue Storm of the 3-year-olds, and she gets £5 from him. Yep. So that puts her £1 well in for what that's worth. I accept. And then she gets lumps from the older horses. I just wonder why Jack Shannon is sending her here unless he thinks she's up to the task. So Banecliff for me, I accept and acknowledge all of Ron's stats, but I didn't look at stats for this one, so I'm just going to go with form book and potential. So Staincliffe for me, and that's that.
I think with how I've been all over 3-year-olds like a bad rash this year in any race, I'd have been with you. But I've got to go with what my stats say, haven't I?
Yeah, of course you have. No problem at all. But I'm going to go against you, and I don't care. So
fair enough.
Banecliff for me, and we move not so swiftly because we're quite old. We move on, if not swiftly, to the 225 at Sandown.
Yeah, I thought with 9 going to post that this would be a pretty competitive race, but the market's implying only one horse can win this, and that's Tamfana, 3-year-old, trading even money favourite as I was typing it, and it's then 13-2 bar.
Yeah,
now, I guess if she produces the form of a 1-length Giddy's 4th, then she's going to be mighty hard to beat here tomorrow. She was then sent to France twice to contest Group 1 races. She finished 3rd in the French version of the 1,000 guineas. She then went and took on the Colts and was beaten just under 3 lengths again at Group 1 level. And that was in the Grand Prix de Paris. Mm-hmm. Now, if form, as far as I can see, is head and shoulders above anything in the race, second favourite is Dohar at the moment. Won a Class 2 handicap at Royal Ascot, beating a horse that had previously won a Class 3 handicap by a head, and now they're taking on a Group 1 filly. And you're thinking to yourself, is that right? From a profiling perspective, you do want to be with a 3 or 4-year-old trading front 3 on the tissue. From a market angle, we've seen 4 winners at 12-1, 12-1, 14-1, and 18-1 in the last decade. But when nothing daft like that happens, you've got to be with horses that are trading 9-2 or shorter, because by doing that, you'd have backed the other 6 winners. Only Tamfana's trading shorter than 13-2, so she's got to be my selection. If a long shot wins it tomorrow, I lose. Simple as that.
Yeah, what Ron said. Basically, yeah, it's really do. I mean, the score between 3 and 4-year-olds in the last 10 years sits at 5-all, so we can't learn much there. But luckily, as I said, everything points to Tamfana. Daughter of Soldier Hollow, trained by David Minucier, who's got a 90% running to form figure, which, that's got to be a positive, if nothing else. Yeah. She hasn't got a head in front in 2024. However, she started with a length 3rd at Deauville in a Group 3, which is the same level as this race. Built on that significantly with a length 4th in the 1,000 guineas, followed with a 3/4 length 3rd in the French Oaks, and a 2 3/4 length 4th in the Grand Prix de Paris. You're probably just repeating exactly what you just said. When she failed to see out the 1.5 miles. As you pointed out, all of those are Group 1s. And she now drops back into Group 3 company. Yeah. My only question mark against her is, why did they step her up to 1.3 miles or 1.5 miles on the Grand Prix de Paris if she's got the speed for a mile? Now, obviously, she has got the speed for a mile to finish that close up in the 1,000 guineas, but they clearly thought she has more stamina than that. Why would you send her over further if you didn't think that? Will she be able to adapt to coming back to a mile? If I'm trying to pick holes, if you like, clutching at straws to try and find a way to beat her. I can't find a way to beat her. I think choice here, number 1, William Buick, Simon and Ed Crisford, 12-1. there's an potential each way play in there. I think better than she's better than we've seen, and they think quite highly of her. I know that much. Whether she's good enough to beat Tanfana seems highly unlikely. And I think Tanfana will win. Really difficult to pose. There's a little bit of 11 to 10 available. She was 5 to 4 last night, so you're really looking for any odds against you can find. To be honest with you,
I'm surprised she's not odds on.
Yeah, it would be the drop back to a mile, and
I was thinking that.
And the lack of a win. I don't think she's got any resolution problems, but you and I both, being old timers, if you like, I look at horses like that and go, have you got the will to get to the front? Is that why you keep going close but not quite getting there? And the 1,000 Guineas form hasn't exactly been that well advertised, to be fair.
Oh no, I think it was a poor 1,000 Guineas, yeah.
It was, but it was still a Group 1, and this is a Group 3. I mean, I would have expected it to be this price if she was running in a Group 2. Yeah. Let alone in a Group 3. So difficult to oppose, and therefore I won't. So Tanfana for me will double up on that one, mate.
Lovely, 2 points win. Thank you very much.
I wonder if we agree on the next one. Where are we going?
Yeah, we've got a listed race over the Ledger Trip in the Chester 315. I hate these things. Don't like long distance races. Got last year's Irish Train winners back to have another shot at it. Shanroe, 10 years of age now though. Yeah. Won it at 17 to 2 last season, round about 14 to 1 this season. That was the longest price winner of this race since Gabriel's King won it for Fahy in 2015. 3-year-olds have got a cracking good record in this, especially when you consider only 16 have tried to win it in the last 10 years. 5 have done so with another 3 placing. That's 50% of all the 3-year-olds that have tried to win it, winning or placing. That's some strike rate, that. Thing is, not a solitary 3-year-olds turning up this year. Where are they all? The younger horses aside, I want to be working with horses aged 5 or 6. And that points me at the front 4 on the tissue, which is great because 8 of the last 10 winners were from 4 on the tissue. It's not really a race that lends itself to profiling because last year's winner was Irish trained. That was the first in the last 10 years. Aged 9. No horse older than 6 had won it previously in the last 10 years. And he was 17 to 2, and only 2 winners in the last 10 years again. I'd be bigger than 11 to 2. All I can do here is suggest we run with Keys Corister, the only runner also carrying less than 9 stone 8 pounds. On official figures, he must win, as the only horse rated higher than him is the Mullins trained Absurd. Just £1 better officially, but got to give Keys Corister £5. This will never be a race that I trust with too much of my money, but purely for podcasting purposes, and blame me for picking this one, I'm going to go with David Manisway to win the second race on the bounce, on the profiling, on the podcast rather. He's got the gate.
This is where I butt in and get ahead of Ronnie and go, yes, we have a over week market mover. There you go. We haven't had one of them before. Absurd. 9 to 4 now. I wrote this yesterday. 6 to 1. 6 to 1. Freely now down to 9 to 4. That suggests to me they're putting the money on it.
Do you know what? When I first started looking at this race, which was about 2.5 hours ago, it wasn't favourite.
No. It was literally 6 to 1, and I've actually just had to rewrite the bit that I've written down here where I said at 6 to 1. Standing each way value, which I can't really say about a 9 to 4 shot now, can I? Again, I get to go second, so I get to repeat what Ron says, basically. I mean, Caius Chorister's got a great chance, 4th in the Langtree at Goodwood. It's between that and Absurd, as far as I was concerned. Won the county hurdle at Cheltenham in March, won over this trip at York, as well as over shorter elsewhere, so he has both speed and stamina. He's stable, more than capable of tuning up whenever and wherever they feel like doing it, which incidentally, they've got one at Worcester, believe it or not, on Sunday, if anybody wants to have a look. Dead serious, they have. And I've now changed it to even the 9 to 4 and offer is sorely tempting from an original 6 to 1 each way looks sorely tempting. I can't change it now. I can't suddenly go back and look through again what I did earlier. So Absurd was my selection originally each way. Now at 9 to 4, got to be Absurd to win, I'm afraid. You have to be Absurd not to win.
It would be Absurd, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Wouldn't it just? Boom, and all that. One last race, Ron, and you picked this one. I blame you for this. The 3:35.
I know, my fault. 7 lightly raced juveniles go for the Sandown 3:35. And all I can apply here is market position, as they're all 2-year-olds carrying 9 stone 3 pounds. Again, yep, my fault. Now, the winner's not been outside the front 200 tissue for this since Lucan went missing. That means one of Field of Gold or Royal Playwright wins it. The winners of both have saddled the winner of this in the last 10 years with Balding, who trains Royal Playwright, also saddling a couple of placed horses from the 5 that he has sent for the Solario in the past 10 years. However, and I found this surprising, Gosden has only sent 1 for it in the same period of time, and he won it with a horse called Reach for the Moon in 2021. Never won a race for the Gosdens afterwards, and was last seen, and this is true, winning a Class 4 Novices Maiden Hurdle for Jamie Snowden at Worcester at the end of July. How the mighty fall, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah, 7 of the last 8 favourites have obliged. And in that regard, then I've got to go for Field of Gold, who's currently trading favourite, to be the second winner in the last 4 years for the Gosdens. And we will then see it next in a winner's enclosure at somewhere like Cartmel in 2026.
I'm sure we'll hope you're horribly wrong there.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a really good race for a Group 3. However, that doesn't make it easy to find the winner. I can see why Field of Gold's favourite, but I've gone straight past him. I think he's way too short in the betting for that. Royal Playwright is sorely tempting. Andrew Balding, first time out winner. It's not exactly a secret in the racing world that he always leaves plenty to work on with his horses, with his 2-year-old animals when they come out first time out. So he's good enough to win comfortably first time out. Then you have to wonder how much improvement there is to come. In the end, reluctantly, I might add, I've gone for Mattori Bay, Ralph Beckett's colt. He looks more workmanlike than the main market rivals when making his debut at Leicester. It cost 500,000 guineas as a yearling. He's a full brother to Breeders' Cup winner Aunt Pearl, son of Lope de Vega. He showed plenty of signs of inexperience with his head coming back up to his jockey that day, and all the obligatory signs of greenness for an inexperienced colt, to be fair. But he still knuckled down, and he did show a good turn of foot, albeit he then started to wander and idle a bit and look around when he got to the front. So how much will he improve? I don't know. How long's a piece of string is the honest answer to that. But he looks like there's plenty of improvement to come. He looked like he had a good turn of foot that day. And at 9-2, he looks like the value call in an interesting race. Probably the race I most want to see on Saturday afternoon, to be honest with you. Because if there's anything that's I won't go as far as top class, but anything that may be competing for Group 1s later in the season, the winner of this, it looks a good field. I'd certainly be marking the winner down as a horse potentially worth following, depending on how he wins, of course. But I think it's a good race. You might be right with Field of Gold. I just wonder how much improvement the 2 once raced colts have got. Field of Gold, of course, being twice raced. So he may have taken his improvement already. They've got improvement to come. That's my way of thinking, rightly or wrongly. There you go. And now you can press the button and I won't have to hum anymore.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm good like that.
I said earlier, I'm going to start off with a horse that didn't win. It was in the newsletter, Saigon Dream, 40-1 into 20-1. It finished second at 66-1. It paid 11.26 a place on Betfair. And if it had won, you'd have got 186.74 on Betfair. Next one, Crocodile Power, 14-1 into 7-1 in the newsletter. Won at 91, paid 12.25 to Betfair SP. And finally, Watch Your Matey, 15-2 into 3-1 in the newsletter. I kind of picked it up in the newsletter. It won at 7-2. Really happy with the OMS this week. Yeah, it's been a good week for the OMS. I've been happy with it, considering the racing was really Mickey Mouse early doors. The OMS really did pull a few out of the hat.
Well, it's, was it Arthur Stevenson used to say, little fish taste sweet or something along those lines, whether it's running in a class. It's an almond, it wins and you've got it at 5-1 or 10-1 or whatever it may be, whether it's running in a Class 6 or a Group 1, makes no difference to your payout, does it? So
not at all, no.
Good stuff. All good stuff. Very good. He's outgunned me once again. Though I would like to say, we didn't do a handicap this week. Last week, when we couldn't do a podcast, I did a profiling my way on the Ebor and came out with the winner. Just to say,
You did.
I can't prove that. Of course. Did. Okay, what you did? Sorry for the weekend, boss. What you got?
Oh, besides the chicken jalfrezi tomorrow night, we've got a family curry night.
Nice.
I'm going to suggest a little double, Keys Chorister and Comanche Falls.
Oh, well, why not? I'm going with a straight win on Tamfana, I'm afraid. I did and William Haggis has got one in Germany on Sunday, and all joking aside, William Mullins sends one across for the last race at Worcester on Sunday, and Danny Mullins comes across to ride. But again, there's no prices this early for those, so I've no idea. I could be talking about giving you 2 odds on shots, so no point in slightly odds against Tamfana. Not the easiest weekend to try and find one, I'm afraid, but I'll settle for that. Tamfana to win, 225 Sandown. No, yes, Sandown, that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, anything else to discuss?
No, not this week. Thank you very much. Are you free next week?
He checks calendar.
Calendar.
Yes, I am.
Lovely. Well, we've got a few things to chat about already for next week, haven't we?
We have. We did. They sort of cropped up this morning or whatever it was, and we haven't had time to research them properly. So we'll research them, and we'll come back in more detail next week.
Yeah, so we'll have some proper details to chew on. Yeah.
Tune in, same time, same channel, or whatever they used to say, something along those lines.
Something like that.
Showing my age. Okay, have a good weekend, everyone. I hope the sun's shining wherever you are, and I hope you're back plenty of winners, whether the ones we suggested or others.
Yeah.
That's entirely. Okay, go for it, and I'll see you next week.
See you now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Post Racing, the site for winners.